Hello, this is John with Brainstorm Comics and Gaming, and again we have lost that love thing killing. No, all right. The cameraman gave me a look like I should be ashamed of myself. I'm not though. So, but anyway, this is this week's Turning the Page. We have many topics to go over. I have my computer here so I can look up some of the topics that we are going to be discussing. We're going to be discussing Greg Smallwood and his issues with Marvel Comics. We're going to be discussing Moon Knight, how there's going to be a Black, White, and Blood series for that. Dark Crisis is on the horizon for DC. DC loves their crises. I know you as you love them too, right, cameraman?
Love them. I can tell you everything that happens.
Tom Taylor is engaging his haters on Twitter, which is, I don't think, a good thing to do, but, you know, do whatever makes you happy, I guess. Secret Invasion is getting a sequel for Marvel. We're going to be discussing that. Another thing that Marvel's going back to is 2099 this summer. We're going to talk about the FOC Hotness like we did last week, and then we'll be talking about Best Wednesday Ever! And I'm sure our cameraman doesn't have anything to contribute to that again. We will see, though, right? I know you're having a Best Wednesday Ever because you have a new house, right, sir?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. How you liking your new digs?
It's very nice. We've already finished unpacking and made sure to, finally I have nice enough shelves to put all the graphic novels up and stuff. So that's certainly nice.
Storage place for all your comics also?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now you can buy more.
I was already going to do that, but they were just piling up in an awkward corner.
Oh.
Now it's a sensible corner.
Oh, okay. Makes it better. All right, so topic number 1, Greg Smallwood is angry at Marvel. So he had handed in some artwork for Elektra, Black, White, and Blood number 2. Apparently Marvel has a sensitivity department from what the article stated, it seemed like. They said it did not pass their standards and practices for the portrayal of Asian people. We'll have a link to the article here in the description. So apparently they contacted him and said, hey, we're going to alter your artwork. We're going to have one of the artists here do that. And he's like, no, I will do it. Just tell me which panels you want me to do that for. He sent the corrected copies to Marvel. The editor apparently still went with the other artist's rendition of his stuff. Like they still made the edits to it, at which point he went crazy when he saw that somebody else had made the alterations after he had already handed in his corrections. The editor says, "Oh, I missed that email," or something along that lines. And what are your thoughts on this, Mr. Cameraman?
I'll even
saw
just
the pictures also. So
yeah,
we'll post those
I looked at them. I'll even gloss over. I'm not entirely sure what was more or less offensive between the beginning and after, except that one that was they put more clothes on like a monster looking character, and
what
it's
are
like
they called, like a yokai or something like that?
that might be. I'm not following it, but even in that, it's like you wouldn't want Elektra to be too sexual of a comic, I guess. Weird choice, but and also it's Black, White, and Blood. Like that one's the weirdest one, but either way, even if they, whatever, they have the sensitivity group that says, it was offensive. He's willing to change it. He clearly wasn't doing this out of any malicious intent. They told him this is a problem, and he went, okay, yeah, I'll work on that, and sent them other versions, and they
Now, I
still
would like to see what
it.
his edits were also, though, because he didn't show the edits.
That's true. I can't imagine maybe it wasn't up to their thing, but then if they're backtracking with this, I feel like they know what they did was wrong, and it's just kind of
obviously
confusing.
A lot of artists are taking his side because artists hate when people alter their vision of things. So.
Right. And, made a joke about it earlier, but especially Marvel with their CB Cebulski issue having a real problem with this one. So it's like,
And one of the artists made the comment, like, oh, if only you had faked being Asian, you would have been better off.
Yeah.
Maybe you would have gotten a promotion instead of...
the feature editor-in-chief right there.
Yeah, maybe, perhaps. Like you said, I don't know. I didn't see anything offensive when the pictures that he had drawn. There were a couple Asian artists that made the comments, like, yeah, I don't understand what problems there were with yours. I don't know. It seems like Marvel definitely made a misstep on that one.
Yeah, I mean, again, just like even if it was deemed offensive, Everyone's saying like we don't see it, and I'm gonna agree. I don't really see it. I don't see a big difference between the before and after. He was willing to change it, and they still went with something else. So like even if for whatever reason this group decided it was inappropriate.
Well, it also brings up who was on in that group. Like were there any Asians represented in that group? Was it like?
Who knows?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just weird all around. Yeah. Dumb of them.
But I will say that the black, white, and blood ones, I love those 3-color comics. I think they're very beautiful. Seeing like the art like more basic than with overly wrought with colors and stuff. So.
Okay.
We'll turn the page on that one though. We'll come back to it and see if there's any more fallout from that. So before we move on, don't forget to LCS, like, comment, and subscribe to your local comic book shop's Brainstorm Comics and Gaming's YouTube channel. You can also hit the notification button. Obviously, all that stuff helps the YouTube algorithm, helps us move on up the ratings and get us more views and stuff for YouTube. And we're moving up pretty fast now. We're closing in on 300. 300 subscribers.
288.
Mm-hmm. So, getting up there. All right, so let's move on to topic number 2. Jonathan Hickman is doing at least a couple more things for Marvel. One of the next ones is with Chris Bachalo, sticking with the black and white blood theme. Sorry. They are working on Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood, and is going to be, like I said, Jonathan Hickman and Chris Bachalo. This may be particular interest to all of the Marvel fans out there, especially the Moon Knight fans, because they are introducing a new Moon Knight. Now, I think that this one is set in the distant future, though, so it's not somebody that's going to be on the immediate horizon. But we have seen, like, Spider-Man 29 take off. Miguel O'Hara is definitely one of the more popular characters in the Into the Spider-Verse stuff.
Like you said, I think the art is really nice, and that's the selling point on the Black, White, and Blood. Hickman's strongest point is always his long-form storytelling, not really his short bursts.
Delving deep into story elements and characters.
So, I mean, that it's like, yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. My thing with, I would love if they actually extrapolated the Black, White, and Blood and made a long form series of any of these instead of the small vignettes, because that's my biggest problem with them. I love the art, but nothing in it ever really feels too substantial.
You feel like you're getting more of a snack than a meal.
Exactly, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, put those out. But, if you're trying to sell me that Hickman is on it, it's like, it's not his strong suit. And, maybe a long-form Moon Knight of the future written by Hickman would be really cool, especially with that art style. But for this, it's like, I'm sure it'll be nice.
So for you, it's, Hickman's on there, but for one issue, and he's not even there for the full issue. He's there for 1/4 of the...
Right, yeah.
Okay, I got you. I think a lot of people should check it out, though, especially, like, as we talked about last week, unfortunately, first appearances do help drive the market right now. I'm interested to see Chris Bachalo's pencils. He's hit or miss for me. Sometimes I really love his stuff. Sometimes I'm like, he doesn't really fit this book. I think Moon Knight is a book that he would fit very well on. I love his stuff on Doctor Strange. I feel like that was an underrated run. I think he should have stayed on there forever and ever and ever. He was made for that book. And ever.
Maybe they'll do a Doctor Strange Black, White, and Blood.
I hope. That would be good.
It seems like they're doing every character.
It seems like it. I agree with you, though. Maybe they should do like just a series called Black, White, and Blood, and maybe not just focus on one character, but do like a 3-issue story arc or a 4-issue story arc and just rotate that way.
Well, I know you haven't read it, of course, and you're going to say that it's a dumb form for it. But the X-Men Infinity comic right now that they're doing on the Marvel Unlimited...
You're wrong.
Yeah, they're just leaving the series running. It's like on issue 21, but there's already been 3 different arcs with 3 completely different focuses of characters and stuff. And I think Black, White, and Blood would be perfect for that. You just do a long-running series instead of doing. I mean, obviously, number 1 sell better, but you just do like 5 issues or whatever, or like a Marvel Presents from like the 90s or something like that, and just put in different characters doing short runs.
Yeah, I think that it would definitely. I think it would give artists a lot of leeway also, and you might be able to get people from outside the industry to do it that way as well, which is always interesting to see other people's take on the medium that we love. Mm-hmm. So, all right, so let's move on to topic number 3. Do you think DC has enough crises?
I wouldn't even know how many they have. I'm going to guess there's been 5 crises events.
Let's see, there's Crisis on Infinite Earths, a lot... They've pretty much changed it to where 0 Hour was a crisis event, even though it didn't have the name Crisis in it. Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis. Let's see, I feel like I'm missing at least a couple there, but
To at least 4.
at least 4. So coming out of the death of the Justice League comes Dark Crisis. This is going to tie all the different crises together. It's going to show that there was a big bad as a result of Justice League Incarnate from last week. I think it was number 4 last week. Talking about how the big bad has been planning everything for the last 40 years. So that's the next big tent pole from DC, though. What do you think? DC's big guns off the table. The big bad shows up.
I think if they can pull it off, I think that's a nice way to tie in all these disparate timelines, which, I'm more of a Marvel person, and a lot of that comes down to an extent, it's much easier to follow. Everything's
That's why
happening.
We're looking for another cameraman.
It's much easier to follow of this is all one universe. DC does confuse me, like trying to leap in, especially series that started before 52 and continued after it and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't really know, like, where's a good jumping on point for a lot of things. And I think them trying to tie it all together, sure, it's retroactive. I don't think it's a problem if they can actually make it a good story.
So I'm always torn in two directions whenever DC does a big crises thing. Number one, I think that they can scare off new readers because DC goes so deep into their history when they do these things, and if you don't have a steep knowledge base for them, you can feel lost very easily. I think that's one of the reasons why 0 Hour is one of my favorite ones. I feel like they gave enough exposition in that one that like you did not feel lost. On the other hand, I think by taking the main Justice League characters off the table, you're going to give a moment for the new younger characters to shine and prove their worth. Kind of like Barry Allen when he sacrificed himself in Crisis on Infinite Earths, he kind of passed the torch along to Wally.
Your favorite, right?
And then unfortunately, Barry came back. Now, granted, it was like 15 years later that he came back, but I think DC has a plethora of great characters, young characters on their docket right now. Tied into one of our next topics, Jonathan Kent is definitely getting a lot of buzz in terms of what he's doing as Superman. Yara Flores, the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Damian Wayne. Jace is the next Batman. Aqualad becoming the new Aquaman. So they have a lot of like young characters out there. Not to mention like the Teen Titans Academy, all those characters. Giving them a platform in order to like not be overshadowed by Superman or Bruce or Diana or any of them. I think gives them a bigger chance, a bigger spotlight.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Give them, a big moment in the comics to give them kind of a lasting legacy, basically.
Yeah. And that's what DC is mostly about, is legacy. They're like, as I said before, one of my favorite things about DC is, we went from Alan Scott to Hal Jordan to John Stewart / Guy Gardner / Kyle Rayner, and then back, unfortunately, to Hal Jordan. But we won't dwell on that. And then Jay Garrick to Barry Allen to Wally, and then unfortunately back to Barry. But all joking aside, I've told you before, the reason I don't like that they went back to those two characters is I feel like they stopped the progression that they were going through and going with the legacy stuff. I love that they pass the torch along and I like DC in that they don't take away your character. I mean, some people argue that they took away Barry and Hal. Barry at least made a sacrifice during Crisis, and Hal made a sacrifice even to make amends for what he had done by restarting the sun in the DC universe. So, but I think it adds to the history of the characters and it feels more real, and like it also gives that next generation a sense of purpose. Like, hey, I have to live up to this guy's standards or this woman's standards, and kind of meet that, or I'm a failure. Wally wrestled with that a lot during the 90s. So, yeah. You and I have talked about this also. I do feel that that's a problem going on in comics right now. I feel like they dilute some of these characters by having too many of them running around. With Spider-Man, with Green Lantern, Batman. I feel like there's a lot of Batman clones running around within the Batman universe. So, your thoughts?
No, I agree with that. Yeah, I think, some of these there are too many. Spider-Man, I would agree with. Miles and Peter both kind of have their place, and they're very solid. And I don't think I think you can have 2 or 3, but there are way too many. I love 2099, but he was in the main universe for a bit. Ben Reilly.
The Slingers are back.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting choice. But yeah, I think, yeah, I will say on your point about the Barry Allen and everything, he came back in the 2000s, right?
Mm-hmm. Early 2000s,
yeah.
Like 2001, I want to say.
I kind of feel like that might be, you have the one for each era, and the 2000s was sort of they're climbing out of the pit of the comic falling, and so the people that were still there are the people that have been around forever, and so they were that was kind of the character for the time and stuff, and so we're seeing this change again. Even Marvel's doing it with the biggest probably is Hawkeye. Kate Bishop definitely stands on her own, or Miles obviously, but they're both standing on their own as their own thing, and DC's trying to do it.
Well, Young Avengers like 20 years ago, Patriot kind of filling in for like Captain America, like all of them standing in for different. Hulkling standing in for Hulk. I'm trying to think. Wiccan standing in for
Scarlet
Thor.
Witch. Wait,
was it Scarlet Witch? No, Wiccan was for Thor. Because his original name was Asgardian.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I haven't read Young Avengers, so I'm seeing like how they panned out later.
Yeah. Oh, you confused me there for a second. I'm like, wait, no, wasn't he? But I don't know. Like I said, I feel like some of the guys get too wrapped up in like, oh, well, this is not the character that I loved, and
the character you loved is still there.
Yeah. All your comics are still there.
Yeah.
So we're gonna move on. We're gonna turn the page on that topic, and we'll go on to the tie-in to that kind of, and that's Tom Taylor is engaging his critics on Twitter. I don't think that's a smart thing to do on his part, but he's not going to change their mind, and their target audience isn't the guys and gals that are reading his stuff anyway. So it seems like two different spheres. Then why try and bring them together? But to clarify what we're talking about. So apparently there was a group, well, I think it's part of the Comics Geek group. I don't know for sure. I'm not stating that definitively, but I think it was part of that. They said that the Son of Kal-El sales were outside of the top 50 in December. Tom Taylor made the comment like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. There wasn't even an issue in December. The group came back and were like, haha, you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, it wasn't a regular issue, but there was an annual issue, and it just kept going downhill. And do you think that, so this is going to be the question that I ask is, do you think creators should engage their critics on things like that?
No, just hardline no. I mean, if it's something small that's not
relevant.
Yeah, you'll always have like people arguing of like, oh, I don't think this necessarily was a character moment, and maybe he can give a small one. But even that, I can't think of an example, but I'm just going to say in general, no. There's nothing you gain from arguing online. You don't really have nuance in 180 characters. It's just
so obviously what their line was, you go woke, you go broke. And it was like, oh, he came out and your sales were really great. And then immediately their sales plummeted back down. If I remember correctly, though, I don't think they promoted that issue was going to be coming out until after the orders were already completed, though. And I've already told you, like, I don't want to read this series, not because of the bisexual thing. I don't like the changing it from Truth, Justice, and the American Way to Truth, Justice, and a Better World, and then also the climate change story arc. I don't mind if there's like a single issue of that, but I don't know. I feel like a 6-issue story arc is too long for things like that. I feel like Marvel and DC are both in tenuous situations right now in terms of they want to keep those old readers on the dockets because they do buy the most out of everybody. But they also want to make sure that these characters are around 15, 20 years from now. So they want to appeal to a younger audience as well. I don't know. I feel bad for both companies because they are in that kind of situation. It seems like they are trying to have their cake and eat it too in some instances. my thing is, if you like Clark, there is a Clark book for you to read, and they haven't changed him like in any way that should offend you or make you make you angry if you're in that older group. And I can understand Tom Taylor wanting to defend his work. Like, sales aren't bad. What are you talking about? I don't know what the sales were 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago. I can't comment on any of that, but I don't think it serves any purpose because, like I said, that group is not going to change their mind. You're not going to reach any of them. The people who are already reading your book, they're already reading your book.
Nobody's ever been dissuaded from reading a book that they're interested in, hearing that it's not selling well.
If anything, they try and push it. As a reader, I push it even harder on my friends. Like, no, you got to read this.
Right, exactly. So I don't even, I don't know why. Just ignore them. They're clearly trolling you. Just leave it alone.
Plus, you give them a bigger platform, I think, at that point. And I don't know. I think you would have been better served just to ignore it, but
I agree.
But all right, we'll turn the page on that one, and we'll no doubt touch on it again because nobody can be happy with what they have. All right, let's move on. We'll tie the next two together. Marvel's got two big things coming up in the pipeline. Secret Invasion sequel. They said it's a sequel, but not really a sequel. It's its own thing, but not. So.
Okay.
Very committal, right? Very committed, yeah. And then also, like I said, the return to the 2099 universe. Which of those two are you more excited about, Mr. Marvel guy?
2099, if Peter David is on board.
I don't think it was Peter David.
I mean, could be somebody else good, but he made that first 2099 Spider-Man run as good as it was being him, and I've tried to read a couple of the other 2099.
It's the 30th anniversary.
Does that make you feel old?
Maybe. Steve Orlando is writing it.
I'm not familiar. I'm probably read something by him, but I'm not too sure. I mean, neither of them is super appealing. I don't love the idea of going back to the well. I mean, if there's some new interesting idea, sure. And I'm also saying that, but if they announced the new Ultimate return to that, I'd put my foot in my mouth immediately and be on board. So I can't talk too much, but neither of them super appealing, I guess.
I like Secret Invasion. I feel like it did not have a fulfilling conclusion, if I remember correctly. It's been a long time since I read it, so I agree. I don't remember it being ending. The problem with Marvel at that point was every big event kind of just led on to the next big event. Like it was just a daisy chain to
Well, I think I said it last week. I didn't love Secret Invasion, but I did love the Dark Reign period. So that leading into that was fine with me. But I feel like this one is more of, hey, we got a Secret Invasion TV show coming, so we need to pop this out.
Kind of like the Civil War 2 when they had a Civil War movie coming out.
I never read that, but I've heard plenty of negative remarks on that one.
Yeah. Again, I didn't think the premise on Civil War 2 was terrible. I feel like it was not executed as well as it could have been. But going back, so Marvel during that time period, so they had like House of M, which led into Decimation, where there was 198 X-Men or mutants left in the world because they felt like they had too many. I agree, there are way too many mutants out there. Then it went to, I forget which one after that.
Then it was Civil War.
Disassembled, wasn't it?
Disassembled was before.
Okay. But then Civil
House of
War,
M,
and then we had like the whole fallout from that. But like I said, everything kind of just kept leading
Civil
into
War, then Initiative, then Secret Invasion, then Dark Reign, and then Siege, and then it kind of ended. I guess X-Men versus Avengers was kind of after that, but I feel like that's about when it ended.
It was both good and bad in that you felt like there were these epic storylines going on, but like I said, it also felt like you couldn't jump off at any point because you're
If I had been reading them at the time, I think I would have been annoyed and it would have turned me off of it. Going back and reading it on Marvel Unlimited, where you can read all like 100 issues in a row or whatever, it's really cool seeing the progression. But yeah, at the time, I'm sure that was frustrating because even reading smaller events, it's frustrating. Like, do I need to read everything? Does this matter? Do I need this?
Oh, well, there was a lot of that back then. Trust me.
I'm sure, yeah. Especially,
I was slinging books then too. Maybe you remember.
Possibly, I was in there.
But no, it was all, like I said, there was a lot of excitement every Wednesday also, that like people were talking about this stuff and going on. I do wish that there were, I feel like I wish there were more impact within the different universes. I do feel like DC is trying to do that a little bit with Joshua Williamson being so involved with the different aspects of the DCU. But
I think that's the problem with character specific events that spring forth into the main ones, like what's the Thor one from a couple years ago? Do you remember what I'm talking about? The one where basically everything, the War of the Realms. That's it. Okay. War of the Realms, King of Black. Like they're kind of events that spring out of other specific ones, and so it kind of feels like I'll put it to the side. And then I guess they kind of tried with Empire.
There were so many spinoffs from War of the Realms.
Yeah.
And then people missed out on new Agents of Atlas, which now has like all these first appearances in it.
Yeah.
Worth more than what it probably should be.
Well, yeah. But I mean, yeah. They also just recently did. I mean, actually, a better, little event was the final Annihilation. That one was just like kind of a mini event that sort of sprung out of Guardians of the Galaxy, but that was like a good little thing.
Marvel's also gotten good at like doing the annuals that tie together as well.
Sure, yeah, the one with the Infinity Stones. There's too many of these, but
yeah, Infinity Warps also came out a couple years ago.
Right, yeah. So I mean, if this Secret Wars is less a full blown across everything and more of like a little kind of contained, goes into a couple stories, I guess that would be more exciting.
I'm looking forward to it. I don't know. The future stuff, I feel like there's not as much risk or anything involved in it. I don't know. Because they don't really count.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
It could be a fun story. That's what I said. Like Peter David, he made a fun run. The universe itself is whatever, but it was a fun, just side story.
Yeah. We'll see how they go. Like I said, I'm looking forward to Secret Invasion more than Secret Wars was another one that we forgot about.
Which one? Secret Wars 1, 2, or 1?
There are 3 of them. 4 of them? 4 of them?
3. I think there was 1 and 2 in the 80s, and then there was the Hickman one.
And then there was Secret War by Bendis, 2005, 2006.
With
Quake and...
Yeah, or that was Secret Warriors? Or
that was Secret War first, and there was Secret Warriors.
Okay. Marvel with their war, and DC with their crises.
Mm-hmm. All right. Since we had fun we'll turn the page on that one. Since we had fun with it last week with the FOC, I'm sure you had fun trying to find the covers.
That wasn't too bad.
Let's move on. We'll go through these as quickly as possible while also giving you an opportunity to see what you should probably add to your list prior to this Sunday. Let's start off with Batman, Superman, World's Finest. Mark Waid returning to the DCU, doing the writing on this book. Dan Mora doing the cover. Or the interiors. All of you cover fans out there, you have 5 choices for the covers. 4 of them I'm going to highlight. Number 1, you have the Jim Lee one. Jim Lee has 1,000,001 fans out there. Number 2, the Art Germ cover. There are lots of Art Germ fans out there as well. And then the last 2 are by the same artist, Chip Zdarsky. He did a parody of the Batman slapping Robin one, and we have a Batman slapping Superman, and we have a Superman slapping Batman. Those, unfortunately, are 1 in 25 variants, though. But something tells me they are going to be very, very hot. What do you think of that? You going to be down for that one? I know you're not going to pay the probably $50 that it'll probably cost.
I mean, I think it'll be a funny image, but yeah, no, I'm not going to buy it.
You're not going to buy that. I know you're not big on variants, and you also prefer to pay cover price for...
I love paying the cover price.
You don't want to pay extra just for the cover image?
Nope, it's going in my box. I don't need it.
There's not a wrong way or right way on that, but yeah, personal preference thing.
Maybe if I had more money to throw around, that would have changed the story.
You do have a lot of walls to cover now in your house, I'm just saying.
I have movie posters up.
What's your favorite movie poster you got up?
I got Scream right next to American Psycho. It's a good duology there.
Gotcha. All right, next up, Catwoman 41, Sozo Mayaka. I swear I will try and get the name right at some point. Has another 1 in 25. This one doesn't have quite the same appeal as the first one. Plus, I think more people are going to be on top of this one, unlike the first. And if this one does catch on, maybe DC will do a second printing with unlimited covers. What do you think?
They probably wouldn't pull it twice.
Yeah.
Probably.
Nobody ever does the same thing twice. All right, moving on. Next one is Naomi #1, season 2. I love the first series. I like the fact that Superman inspired the character, and this goes back to what we were talking about, like that next generation of heroes kind of filling the void. I think I still think she has a great amount of potential. I think that they missed the boat on the TV series by changing up too much of it, but we will see. Moving on, the next one is Nubia #6. The B cover by Kyle Baker is very attractive. I love this cover. I think it's going to be a good one. Next up is a reading book, Rogues #1 by Joshua Williamson. It's a Black Label book. There's a 1 in 25 action homage cover that I think is going to be very, very hot as well. And then we'll move on to Marvel. We have Amazing Spider-Man #88, the second printing. If you missed out on Queen Goblin the first time, you do not want to do that a second time. Obviously, this character is going to have an impact on Peter's life, Ben Reilly's life, the whole Spider-Verse. Moving on, we have Carnage #1, written by Ram V. There's a cool cover by Simone Bianchi. Obviously, Carnage is a fan favorite. And then moving on, we have The Reckoning War, Trial of the Watcher. The main cover for this one looks very nice. In addition, I don't know whether I'm getting weak, but I guess Momoko the cover looks really good. Maybe I've been worn down after all this all this time. I know. I don't feel good about myself. Wait until you hear the next one. So Wolverine patch #1 is coming out. Two very attractive covers. The first one's the main cover by Jeff Shaw. The second one is John Romita Jr. The cover actually looks pretty decent. I don't have I just been looking at too many of them at this point, or have my standards been?
I think it has to be the second.
The standards have just been lowered. I don't know. It's not even raining in the John Romita Jr. one, and I didn't even think he could do that.
It's not even just that it's John Romita Jr. art. You're telling people to read a Wolverine book.
Oh yeah. True. What happened to me?
You've changed.
I put my personal opinions aside when I recommend. I know there's a lot of Wolverine fans out there, and this one did look like an interesting story. On the independent side, Little Monsters. I talked about this on the last one, I think. I think they pushed it back on the FOC. Jeff Lemire is doing, or maybe it was just because we talked about Jeff Lemire.
I think it was just because you're talking about Jeff Lemire.
So that one's on the FOC. Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen on that one. I'm looking forward to reading that one. And then We Live, going Age of Paladinians? I don't know how you pronounce that, but whatever. Dustin Nguyen did a great cover for this one as well. This is the sequel to the first series. And that's what I got for the hot FOC books that you may want to add to your list before this Sunday. You don't want to miss out. All right. You know what time it is?
I couldn't possibly guess.
You don't know what time it is? It is the best Wednesday ever. I suppose you want me to start off because I did all that. Okay. Mouse is having the best Wednesday ever. We have more and more people coming in asking for us to order more copies of it. I don't know. I'm sure most people have heard about it by this point, but Tennessee, my understanding is it got misrepresented at first. It wasn't banned per se. It's just not part of the curriculum any longer. It's still in the library for the schools. It's just not, which I think is still silly. I think it's a very good book to read, especially in concert with something like Anne Frank's Diary or the like. So, yeah. But I would say that one's having the best Wednesday ever, and I think it's a good thing that it got a spotlight on it and moving up the sales chart.
Yeah. It deserves the praise it gets. Mouse is definitely something that's not overhyped in my mind. It deserves the attention and praise that it gets.
Yeah. You want to do the next one, or you want me to move on since you only have one or two?
I only got one, but I'll say a Secret X-Men.
Secret X-Men.
For me specifically, but also it's fun seeing all of the ones that nobody really cares about. Maybe there's a couple fans. I'll be a Marrow fan, but it's fun seeing that.
It should be their Suicide Squad. Just have X-Men die on there.
Sure, yeah. Because they also come back, so why not have a Suicide Squad? They specifically are sending these out. I mean, they're kind of doing that in X-Force with like Quentin Quire as like a bit, but yeah. That's honestly not a bad idea. Each week, you just toss in random characters that go on a mission. You kill them off. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. And I'd buy a book where X-Men died every issue.
So would I, but for different reasons. Not out of spite.
All right, new costumes having the best Wednesday ever. Avengers number 53 was the hot book of the week because Black Panther got a red costume, so that obviously makes it a $15 book. Not gonna lie to you, I think that's a silly reason to buy the book, but
It's also it can't stay.
no.
He's the Black Panther. If he was red, it'd be very silly naming. You know it's temporary.
All of these websites were hyping it, and I'm like, are you serious? This clearly is not a long term. If anything, it's to sell toys or like
Sure.
apparel or
You know, Batman's going to stick with a white costume forever now. The Dark Knight will be white and the Black Panther will be red.
it made my head hurt. It did. You have no idea.
Hey, maybe you're selling extra copies. There you go.
That is a bright spot. Yeah, like I said, I mean, new costumes are having the best ones ever. It's I don't agree with it, but it is what it is. Independence having the best Wednesday ever. So we have Daisy, we have Apache Delivery Service, we have From Blood, we have Life Zero, we have Cult of Icarus, we have Cover of Darkness, we have Land of the Living Gods. All of them are very hot this week. All of them were flying off the shelves. Always good, I think, to see Independence getting a lot of love on the shelf. But the one I was looking forward to the most was Life Zero. It's kind of like a zombie type story, but people may be zombied out.
I'm a bit zombied out, but I think you had it in Stormwatch, but Playthings looked pretty interesting.
Yeah, that one got pushed back. I think the next week though. It didn't come out this week after.
Never mind. Next week it'll be best Wednesday ever.
Sneaky variants having the best Wednesday ever, and what I mean by that is Marvel and DC and Independence. All three drive me crazy. When I'm doing my final order cutoff date orders, they don't always have the cover available. It's cover to be announced or cover to be shown later. One of those books was the Darth Vader 50th anniversary cover. It's got the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. What's his name?
Grogu.
There you go. On the cover, people paying $15, $20 because of that. So, sneaky covers. We just don't know. Oh, also another sneaky cover this week. Sway did the variant cover to, I forget which book it was, but it was for Black History Month. Again, they did not have the picture. It's a Miles Morales one. Sway is a great artist. Made the book automatically a $25, $30, $35 book. So even with us doing the highlights of the FOC, there's still going to be ones that sneak by us, unfortunately. Like I said, retailers are just as on the blind side as you are. But all those had the best Wednesday ever. Did you have another one to throw in there, sir?
I did not, because it got moved to next week.
Okay. Well, that's our episode of Turning the Page for this week. I know we went a little long, but we covered a lot of topics this week and last week. What do you think of the new format? Did you watch last week's? I know you had to watch it for the edits. But...
I had to watch it many times.
Yeah.
It's different. We'll see what it does.
We have some people saying they want to do guest hosting with us, so that might be on the horizon as well. We'll see.
Rotating guest host.
Yeah, I don't like being the only person. I know you're there, and like I make you talk, but
I am forced here.
All right. Well, that's this episode of Turn the Page. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let us know in the comments section. Let us know what you thought, who you thought had the best Wednesday ever. Thank you, and keep on reading.